Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, and each episode I look to bring you a different guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another and bring them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to share some of yours. I'm thrilled today to have my special guest, Mickey Smith Jr., on with me. Mickey, thank you for being here and kind of tell everybody who you are.
Well, thank you, Todd, for having me. It's always an honor to be able to share stories, and I think being able to hear the stories and be encouraged by others. So I applaud. I'm just a little fella from a little state called Louisiana. I'm a band director in Sulphur, Louisiana, a town about that small. And over the last few years, we've had quite a bit of success teaching and reaching young people through the beautiful medium of music. And I'm so excited to share that this year, a dream came true. A dream came true. A dream that was one that I had when I was a little kid and never really thought that it would truly happen. I won a Grammy. I won a Grammy for music education. And as a result, just have had a wonderful experience bringing that award here to our little small town and showing our kids anything is possible if you never give up, if you don't quit, if you keep on going.
You know, we got so much to talk about today, and I cannot wait to dive into some of that Grammy stuff. So, congratulations right off the top for that. But I love when I have my guests in here to kind of go back and start at the beginning. And that is, when you were a kid, what did you kind of dream you were going to be? And does it align at all with what you're doing now?
Well, I grew up in I guess you can call it a forgotten community. It was a small rural setting. I guess you can even say an impoverished town. It's no longer there anymore. It was actually the entire town was bulldozed, and they
Oh,
built a
wow.
chemical plant on top of it. So that kind of gives you a picture. It was a place, wonderful people were there. They had beautiful hearts, but at the same time, there was not a lot of opportunity. There was not a lot of value that maybe could be seen or aspired to. So growing up, I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't have any high expectations or aspirations for anything to the sort that we're talking about today. But music was an opportunity and one that I'm still amazed at even today. I was given a saxophone by my grandmother. She got me my first saxophone, and I'll never forget. I'm in the house and I'm getting ready to play, and I tell my students this story because I always think it's important that they understand who you are and where you came from so that you can be everything you need to be so they can be what they can be. And for me, I share that story because my first sound, God, it was amazingly terrible. So bad, in fact, my mom looked at me and she said, "Son, keep on going outside, down the driveway." And ultimately, every time I played, I'd hear the words being echoed, "Keep on going." And every time I looked at her, she would go farther until I did end up across the street, no joke, in the woods is where I would practice. So I'm a little kid in a little town in a rural setting playing the saxophone. And when I share that story with my students, many times they'll say, "Hey, you didn't get upset? Like you didn't quit? I would have quit if they would have told me that. I would have been embarrassed." But I explained to them that it's all in how you take the words. Because for me in those woods, yeah, I was alone. It was a season of isolation, but it actually was an opportunity for elevation. And now today, fast forward, we're experiencing the celebration all because what? I didn't quit. I did what mama said. Keep on going. But it's all in how you take it. And so many times in life, we have things that come our way, but how we receive it, how we operate from it determines if something is good or bad, not the thing itself. And I share that with my students. And I share the story that I continued, I worked it out and made it closer to the house. Todd, they didn't let me in the house, man. They didn't let me in the house. I had to stay outside. And then one day, my dad came home from work. He worked longshoreman, a docks, throwing 100-pound sacks, hard labor. And he came home tired one day and he went in the house. And that same woman that told me, keep on going, had a conversation with my dad that I was unaware of. Inside the house, my mom goes, "Hey, do you hear him?" My dad goes, "Yeah, I hear the boy. He never stops. He just keeps on going." She says, "No, listen, he actually sounds good." Now, again, this is all hearsay. I didn't know I was outside. I was lost in the process. And I explained to my kids that if you can fall in love with the process, you don't realize that in this case, a couple of years had passed or that it was pretty cold. It was a December evening when this happened. But in the moment, I was in the music. And the most important thing that probably has ever happened in my life, personally, professionally, happened in those next few moments. That door opened up, and my mom and my dad said, "Come on in." And I tell you that so you understand that even with the Grammy, even with the various things that have happened in my life, there's not one thing that supersedes that moment of my parents opening that door and saying, "Come on in." And at the end of the day, for me, it was more than just an open door. It was a message that said, "You're loved, you're valued, and you're wanted." And man, I'm gonna be honest, they messed up. Once they opened up the door and told me to come in, they thought I was practicing. Man, it was game over then. I'm really going. And I tell my kids that ironically, life is funny because here I am, fast forward, I'm still in beginning band. I never graduated. I'm back in beginning band all over again, even as an adult. But now the cool thing is now I get to open up doors of opportunity for young people through this beautiful medium of music, hopefully showing them that they are loved, valued, and wanted. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the subject matter as much as it's about showing that young person that they matter and who they can be, helping them discover their sound.
You know, I gotta say right off the top, you are a fantastic storyteller. Like I was like, I don't even care how long this story goes on because this is such a good story. So I love listening to that, and you know, it's so I think it resonates with a lot of people. That whole, you know, it's something you love, and when your family can see the hard work you've put in and recognize it and value that too, it makes you feel a whole another kind of way. And so, you know, the first question I have to ask is, you're talking about the saxophone, but have you spent any time learning other instruments as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. As a band director, I have to be knowledgeable, at least proficient on all the instruments, because I'm charged with making sure that they can get their start and that I can provide them feedback that allows them to grow. So, any wind instrument, I can play. Now, will you pay to hear me play every instrument? Probably not, but I am proficient on all the wind instruments. I play a little piano as well too, and I dabble in the guitar, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm just good enough. I started my daughter on guitar, and she passed me on up. She's well on her way, and my son's getting ready to pass me up on the trumpet too. So it's been a beautiful thing now to be able to share those gifts with the community. But now my wife and I both have two children that are now getting to kind of follow in the footsteps, and that's a beautiful thing. But I tell anybody who listens, it's not even just about the instrument. It's the understanding of what the instrument provides you. It provides you opportunity to understand that anything's possible with persistence, perseverance, patience. That the process of learning an instrument is much like life, And when you can develop your sound on the instrument, then the next stage of the game is connecting it, banding together with others. And even the world we live in today, how necessary is it that we have ensemble, that we have community, that we have blending and balancing? I think music is just that powerful medium just to show the world what the world can be.
You know, I love that explanation, and I couldn't agree more. And, you know, as you're talking and I'm thinking about you growing up playing the saxophone and falling in love with it, when did it kind of hit you that, I want to be a band director? Like, I want to pour into kids about this kind of stuff too. Like, when did that kind of resonate with you?
I kind of chuckled just now because it did not. It did not. Nowhere in my childhood did it resonate because, again, I grew up in a community where we just didn't even talk about college. We didn't talk about what the next steps could be. But what happened for me specifically was I had a fantastic high school band director who helped me develop my skill set. Again, still not thinking in a million years that I'd be a band director. But what I did know is that what that individual did, his name is Jay Ecker. He's since retired, but I remember looking at Jay and thinking, wow, that's pretty cool. But again, with the low self-esteem, not even thinking enough of myself to know I could be that. I just thought, wow, that's really cool for him, but it resonated. And I'm reminded now that we all have a sound. We all have a unique personal significance, a signature, almost as like our thumbprint that's uniquely ours. But our sound has the ability to resonate or repel others. And in this case, Mr. Ecker's sound resonated with me even before I realized what it was. And having that opportunity to be in high school band, he worked with me, he helped me with the auditions. And then finally, I was able to go to college on a scholarship. I didn't even know this thing existed. Like, it was a big deal in my town. Like me, and my cousin, who were both in band, the same age. I think we may have literally been the only people on the block that had a scholarship. Like, it was a big deal. And ended up going to college, and it was while I was in college as a general business administration major. Business. I don't even like math, Todd. I don't even like math, but I knew this. I knew when I went to college, I said, well, I probably need to do something that's going to make my family proud. I thought money. I thought money. I wanted to make sure that we had an ROI, return on investment, so to speak, on this thing. So I just did what sounded good. I asked my counselor there at the school, and they were like, well, business may be what you want to do. And I did that, but I wasn't fulfilled. I wasn't happy. I was passing, but I wasn't happy. And it was in the middle of finite math, which, by the way, to this day, I have no idea what finite math is, because I got up in the middle of class. It was so rude. I didn't think about it at the time. I got up in the middle of class and I changed my major because it hit me. At that moment, I was working in my community with young people. I was helping at a local church develop a band, a music program. I was serving as a volunteer for a foreign exchange program with young people, helping teens, problem solve and conflict resolution, all this kind of stuff. And I was in 6 music ensembles as a college student, but I wasn't a music major. And it hit me. It was like, you dummy. You're a music major. You're a music education major. And I got up in that moment, and I'm gonna be honest with you. Even though I'm employed, I've never worked a day in my life. Mm-hmm. Every day I feel like I'm just operating and working in my passion. I'm sharing my sound.
Well, most of the people who check out these podcasts are listening to it and they can't see you today. But I have to tell you, my next question is probably the most important of this whole conversation. And it's, have you always had the style you have today? Because I love your style. I love the hat. I love the red suit. Like, I feel like you're one of those that every day you show up, kids are like, what is he going to come today? Because he's Mr. GQ. So has the style always been part of your repertoire, or was it something you grew into as well?
It's definitely, if you could call it a style, it's definitely something I've grown into. A little backstory on it. Number one, my wife says I'm like a cartoon character because I'm not really a fashionista. Okay. I'm not a fashionista. I don't like to think about what I'm going to wear. So if you look at my closet, I have an assortment of red and whites. Like I'm like a low-key cartoon character. And that in and of itself, I think, has kind of ingratiated me to the kids, because it is kind of interesting. How is he gonna look today? But to answer your question about where it all started from, I have a cousin of mine who was just, that cool cousin growing up. She's always a few years older than me. And when I was teenager, just kind of trying to find my way, she had the license already. She'd take me driving. She'd take me here and there. And she wasn't a musician, but she was almost like a savant when it came to music, history, knowledge, just had a keen ear for it. Some people are interior decorators. She was just like a music, I don't even know what the word would be, but she just knew everything about music, in my opinion, And I'll never forget when I first started playing, she got me hip to some pretty influential saxophonist, which is my primary instrument. And she said, you need to listen to this person and this person. And we would just sit and listen to music and study art and all this kind of stuff for hours when I go visit her in our neighboring Houston, Texas, which is a few hours away. Well, as time went on, I began to play. And some of those very people that I used to listen to are now colleagues of mine. And now, it's just one of those beautiful things. So as I began to get on bigger stages, she looked at me and she was like, she called me Maestro, because my name is Mickey. And it was a little funny thing. She said M-I-C-E, which is a misspelling for all my music aficionados out there. But it was the mouse, Maestro. She said, Maestro. She said, MJ. She said, you're a little dorky, man, because I was a bit of a nerd. She's like, you need some style, man. So when things in my life started changing a little bit, she said, you need a hat. So she bought me this hat. And she knew that growing up, I loved Michael Jordan, I loved the Bulls, and I loved Michael Jackson's music. And ironically, both of them wore red, right? So she's like, you need red. That needs to be your color. So she would pick out this stuff for me. And it wasn't until maybe about the past year that I've really kind of locked into this. And true story, man, that Grammy Award, I went in for it about 6 times, really. And the second to last time, I actually was going to give up. I was so disappointed that it didn't come through, because I felt in my heart of hearts that this was the year. This was the year. And when it didn't quite happen that way, it was quite disappointing, just to be perfectly frank with you, to the point where I said, I'm not going to do it again, because to go home and now I'm seeing my kids, they're crying, they're emotional. My wife's disappointed. I'm thinking, okay, this is bringing more pain than anything else. Maybe I'm just being selfish. I'm not going to do this again. So I literally said I wasn't going to do it. Called up some friends of mine, and they told me, man, Mick, you need to continue with it and all that kind of stuff. I said, nah, I'm not going to do it. So I hung up on him. I called my cousin Lisa, who was going through something at the time herself. And I explained to her, I said, hey, I've done this. It's not working. I'm bowing out. And she said these words to me. She said, hey, Maestro, MJ, keep on going. And I'm like, oh, because what I need you to understand, when she said keep on going, it was the children's book I wrote and illustrated as well, based on that true story. And it was a word that I was giving her at a time that she was going through something difficult. So she threw my word back at me. How can you argue with yourself, Todd? So I said, okay, I get it. That touche. I stuck with it. But she made me promise something. She said, this time when you do your Grammy submission, she says, I need you to be your most authentic self. She says, I need you to wear the hat. And I never wore the hat before because I felt it was a little ostentatious, felt like it was a bit much. Who walks around wearing a hat? She said, no, that's your hat. You need to rock it. That's who you are. You tell your students to be who they are. You need to be who you are. She said, you need to rock the red. So I submitted my Grammy video on June the 20th. And I sent her a text message saying, hey, I'm going to win this year because I wore my secret weapon. Ironically, because of COVID, I wasn't able to receive my award this year because the ceremony I would have gotten it at was canceled. So they shipped it to me. They shipped it to me in a FedEx box, which is great. No hate right now. I'm all love to the Grammys, but they shipped it to me in a FedEx box. But the crazy thing was the award arrived on June the 22nd, which for those that, that was yesterday for us now. That date is significant because I sent Lisa that text message on the 20th. I talked to her just about every day. On June the 22nd, she passed away. And as I was walking onto a stage to perform, she had been battling colon cancer. And that loss rocked me, man, because if you knew Lisa, you loved her. Like, she's one of those people where, I'm telling you, Todd, if you had her on this show right now, your life would be made better by her presence. Literally everybody she's ever met felt she was her sister. That is just one of those spirits that just is akin to everyone.
Yeah.
And she was very much that for me. She was my sound adult for me, and it hurt a lot. Especially those weeks afterwards and even months afterwards. So what I decided to do, I decided that with everything I lost, I'm going to honor it with everything I got left. And I decided that I'm going to wear my hat. That's why I said I'm going to wear this hat every day at school this year because it was difficult. But fortunately, I had great people around me that supported me. But there were times where it was difficult. But that hat, it just kind of brought me some comfort. And it kind of let me know she was still close. And I tell you that because on September, I made the top 25 of that same year, just a few months after Lisa passed. She told me I was going to win this year. And then December, I made the top 10. And then January 26, 2020, 6 years to the day that I saw the first recipient win the award, I was announced as this year's Grammy Music Educator of the Year winner. And I say that to somebody, not to impress you, but to impress upon you how important it is to have a dream, but most importantly, how important it is to have sound adults around you that hopefully can help you see yourself beyond yourself, because that's what Lisa did for me. And that's what I hope more than anything, beyond the hat, beyond the style, I hope that there's some substance that allows somebody to know that they're loved, they're valued, and they're wanted, and that there's a sound inside of you that deserves to be heard. That's why I encourage folks, discover your sound and then do like Lisa did. Be the sound to change someone's life, because that's my mission now, to be the sound to help change the world of others. And I think we all have that sound that can do that.
That story was incredibly powerful. I love especially just a couple of reminders you said in there, and that one is don't give up on your dream. And the one way to do that is surround yourself with people who are going to speak life into you, who are going to tell you, you know what, quit acting a fool and actually go in and do it again. and be yourself, and people who love you and will be honest with you. But I think your story is so special too, just for the simple aspect of how the serendipitous moments of it, where it was like she still was shining down on you and telling you she saw you win it. And I love those little reminders too. And so, Mickey, as we wrap up today's conversation, you shared so much brilliance today. I have just so enjoyed talking with you. But one question I always love to end these on is, if people were to walk away with one thing from today's conversation, what would your one thing be for them?
So again, break it up a little bit, but if there's one thing that I want folks to know, it's that at the end of the day, all we can really leave in this thing called life is what we believe. So your actions and your deeds, they're like a seed. And what I've learned more than anything over these last 12 months is that our treasures, our time, our talent, they're not just for our pleasure, but I think true success is one when together, we make those steps be above and beyond, when together we overcome, in essence. So that's why I say, let us be the sound. Discover that sound and understand that each and every day in my life as a teacher, it's more than a classroom. It's an opportunity to affect change in the life of someone. And whether that opportunity is good or bad is not dependent upon the opportunity itself. It's dependent on what I bring to the opportunity, because every opportunity is another opportunity for another opportunity. So I encourage folks out there, especially if you're an educator, make that classroom sound, make your teaching epic, because I'm living testament today that your legacy will be significant, not because of anything that you are, but because of what you are for someone.
I love it, Mickey, and you are doing such incredible work, and I was thrilled to chat with you today. So thank you for spending a few minutes with me today on Tell Your Story. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Anybody that's in
Go ahead.
And finding out more and staying connected, I want to encourage you, be a part of our community. I have a Facebook page entitled Sound 180 Educators. It's a free open forum, but it's a positive, encouraging community that allows you to create a sound 180 days of classroom instruction in harmony. And of course, you can find out more on the website at mickysmithjr.com. There I provide professional development. You can find the Adventures of Little Mickey on there as well as our, I call it the sound check, because we all have a sound, but it's more than your sound. It's an opportunity to check yourself, seeing yourself beyond yourself, operating in optimism and excellence, utilizing all available resources, nourishing relationships. And of course, like Mom said, don't stop, keep on going. And you can find out more there on the website. Great tools to help you be your best self and make sure the next steps are the best steps. So go to mickysmithjr.com. Don't delay. Come join. And hey, it's super easy to remember. So easy, it goes like this. MickeySmithJR.com, guys. I would love to connect with you. And thank you so much, Todd. Thank you for this opportunity to just be a part of your community. Appreciate all that you do.
I love it. And definitely go check out MickeySmithJr.com, just like he said, and check out all of his resources, his book, his Facebook group, everything. He's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your stuff, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Mickey has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters.